There comes a moment in life when you realize that not everyone is trying to understand you. Some people listen only to respond. Some listen so they can judge. And some have already decided who you are before you have even finished speaking. Still, you keep explaining. You explain your choices. You explain your intentions. You explain why you left, why you stayed, why you changed, and why you no longer accept the things you once tolerated. You believe that if you can only find the right words, they will finally understand. But sometimes, the more you explain yourself, the more peace you lose. Because some people do not misunderstand you by accident. They misunderstand you because your truth does not fit the story they have chosen to believe. Welcome to the Unhurried Mind, a quiet place for ancient wisdom, thoughtful reflection, and lessons that help us live with greater clarity and peace. Here, we slow down, we step away from the noise, and we learn to see life through a calmer, wiser mind. Today, we are going to explore a difficult but freeing truth. You must stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Most people do not overexplain because they enjoy talking. They overexplain because they are afraid of being disliked, afraid of being judged, afraid that someone will tell the wrong story about them, afraid that silence will make them appear guilty. So, they keep talking. They provide more details than necessary. They send long messages that nobody asked for. They replay old conversations in their minds, imagining everything they could have said differently. Behind all of this is a quiet hope. If they understand me, perhaps they will accept me. But acceptance that requires you to constantly defend yourself is not real acceptance. A healthy person may misunderstand you at first, but they will ask questions. They will listen. They will leave room for your perspective. They will not force you to present a courtroom argument every time you make a decision. But someone who has already judged you will turn every explanation into more evidence against you. They will question your tone. They will twist your words. They will ignore the parts that do not support their version of the story. And when you answer one accusation, they will create another. This is why some conversations never bring peace. They were never truly conversations. They were trials in which the verdict had already been decided. Your energy is limited. Your time is limited. And your emotional strength is limited. You cannot spend your entire life trying to control what everyone thinks about you. Some people will misunderstand your silence. Others will misunderstand your honesty. Some will call your boundaries selfish. Some will call your confidence arrogance. Some will call your distance cruelty. And some will see your growth as betrayal. Because the new version of you no longer accepts the treatment that the old version tolerated. You could spend hours explaining yourself, and they may still believe whatever makes them feel comfortable. That is not your failure. It is not your responsibility to force understanding into a mind that has chosen resistance. An explanation is meaningful when it is offered to someone who is willing to listen, but it becomes self-abandonment when it is repeatedly given to someone who refuses to hear you. You are allowed to say, "This is the decision I have made." You are allowed to say, "I understand that you disagree." You are allowed to say, "I do not wish to discuss this any further." And sometimes, you are allowed to say nothing at all. Silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is a boundary. Sometimes it is wisdom. And sometimes it is the moment you stop fighting for a place in the mind of someone who never made room for the truth. No one sees you exactly as you are. People see you through the lens of their own fears, their wounds, their expectations, and their past experiences. A person who has been betrayed may question your loyalty, even when you have done nothing wrong. A person who feels insecure may see your confidence as a threat. A person who avoids responsibility may call your boundaries unreasonable, and a person who benefits from your lack of boundaries will often be the first to complain when you finally create them. This does not mean their feelings are meaningless, but it does mean that their interpretation of you is not always the truth. You can be kind and still be called cold. You can be honest and still be called dishonest. You can give your best and still be accused of not trying. People do not always respond to who you are. Sometimes they respond to what you remind them of. Sometimes they respond to what your growth reveals about them. Sometimes your presence forces them to face something they would rather avoid. And instead of looking inward, they blame you. You cannot heal every wound that changes the way another person sees you. You cannot explain your way through someone else's unresolved pain. You can only live with integrity and allow time to reveal what words cannot. When you constantly explain yourself, you may begin to live as though you are always on trial. You hesitate before making decisions. You imagine how everyone will react. You prepare answers for questions that have not even been asked. Slowly, you stop living your own life, and you begin managing other people's opinions. But a peaceful life is not built by convincing everyone. It is built by knowing who you are. When you know your values, your choices become clearer. When your conscience is calm, you no longer need applause from every direction. Let your actions speak over time. If you are honest, continue being honest. If you are kind, continue being kind. If you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and grow from it. But do not spend your life begging people to recognize your character. The truth does not always defend itself immediately. Sometimes lies travel faster. Sometimes rumors are more entertaining. Sometimes people believe the worst because it confirms what they already wanted to believe. But time has a way of exposing patterns. Eventually, consistent actions become louder than temporary accusations. You do not have to chase every lie with an explanation. Continue living in a way that makes the lie difficult to maintain. One of the hardest lessons in life is accepting that some people will tell a version of your story in which they are innocent, and you are the problem. They may leave out what they did. They may exaggerate what you did. They may remember your reaction, but forget the behavior that caused it. You may feel desperate to correct the story. You may want to contact everyone who heard it. You may want to provide messages, screenshots, dates, and every small detail. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, will correcting every person bring me peace? Or will it keep me tied to a situation I need to leave behind? You cannot control every conversation that happens when you are not in the room. You cannot control what someone says after you stop speaking to them. You cannot control how people interpret your boundaries. You can only control whether your own life remains aligned with the truth. Those who know your character will not need a long defense. Those who do not know your character may believe almost anything, and those who want to misunderstand you will often misunderstand even the clearest explanation. Let them have their version. You do not have to live inside it. There is a difference between staying silent because you are afraid and staying silent because you are wise. Fearful silence says, I am too weak to speak. Wise silence says, I know that speaking will not change this. You do not need to respond to every accusation. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to correct every false assumption. Sometimes responding gives the misunderstanding more life. Sometimes defending yourself makes it appear as though another person has authority over your identity. They do not. Your worth does not increase when they understand you, and your worth does not decrease when they do not. You were not created to spend your life asking permission to be yourself. The moment you stop over-explaining is often the moment you begin trusting yourself. You start making decisions without writing an emotional report for everyone around you. You begin to understand that discomfort does not always mean you have done something wrong. Sometimes, discomfort is simply the price of choosing yourself. Silence is powerful, but wisdom also means knowing when an explanation is necessary. If you have hurt someone, explain yourself and apologize sincerely. If your decisions affect people who depend on you, communicate clearly. If a healthy relationship is facing a genuine misunderstanding, speak with honesty. And if someone approaches you with respect and a sincere desire to understand, give them the same respect. The goal is not to become cold. The goal is to stop wasting your heart on conversations that were never meant to be fair. Explain yourself where there is love. Explain yourself where there is mutual respect. Explain yourself where both people are willing to listen, reflect, and accept responsibility. But do not repeatedly explain yourself where there is manipulation, mockery, or deliberate distortion. A mature conversation brings clarity. An unhealthy conversation leaves you exhausted, confused, and questioning your own reality. Learn the difference. There will always be someone who disagrees with the way you live. Someone will think you left too soon. Someone else will think you stayed too long. One person will say you are too quiet. Another will say you talk too much. Some people will say, you have changed. And perhaps they are right. Growth is change. Healing is change. Learning to protect your peace is change. You are not required to remain the version of yourself that made other people comfortable. You are allowed to grow beyond old relationships, old habits, old expectations, and old explanations. You are allowed to stop defending choices that restored your peace, protected your health, or helped you become a stronger person. Not everyone will understand your journey. They did not walk every mile. They did not experience every wound. They did not hear every conversation. They did not carry every burden. So why should they have the final authority over your decisions? Listen to wise advice. Accept honest correction. Remain humble enough to admit when you are wrong. But do not confuse humility with surrendering your identity to public opinion. You can remain open to growth without becoming dependent on approval. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself again, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this person trying to understand me, or are they trying to defeat me? Will this conversation create clarity, or will it only drain me? Am I speaking from honesty, or am I speaking from the fear of being disliked? You may discover that many explanations are unnecessary. The people who truly know you will recognize your heart. The people who love you will ask before they assume. The people who respect you will allow you to make decisions they may not fully understand. And the people who are determined to misunderstand you will do so. No matter how carefully you speak, let them misunderstand. Let them judge. Let them tell the story they need to tell. You do not have to interrupt your healing to correct every false perception. You do not have to abandon your peace to protect your image, and you do not have to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to see you. Live honestly, act with integrity, correct your mistakes, protect your peace, and remember, you are not responsible for the version of you that exists inside someone else's mind. Sometimes, the most powerful explanation is a peaceful life that no longer needs to be explained. Thank you for spending these quiet moments with the Unhurried Mind. If this message brought you clarity, peace, or a new way of seeing your life, consider subscribing to the channel and share this video with someone who may be tired of constantly defending who they are. Until we meet again, slow down, listen carefully, protect your peace, and give yourself permission to live without explaining every step of your journey. This is the unhurried mind, ancient wisdom for modern minds.